coming up on the Greg and Tim Show podcast.
My definition of a conservative is it's the freedom to make a mistake.
Yeah.
Shooting at some food and up through the ground come the bubbling crude. Well, here was a pig farmer from Indiana. How I answer that is I love freedom.
Okay.
And I've been playing banjo since my 20s. You know, we are all the compilation of all the decisions that we've made since that age that we were accountable. Me jumping in because I believe that we need a true conservative. The rest of the world is more conservative than Canada.
Yeah. Like it's hot.
Which begs the question, what does battery acid taste like?
Well,
If that's what we get out of this, we're hippie friendly, I'm good with it because I do like the hippies.
Yeah,
Wow.
a week and a half.
Yeah.
And
Get your earballs ready. Welcome to the Greg and Tim Show podcast. Take time to sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Here are your hosts, Greg and Tim.
edit them out here. Anyway, Greg, we have a special guest.
wait, we have to welcome everybody to the show.
Well, no, we don't have to do that.
Welcome back to the show, the Greg
We
and
don't
Tim
have to
Show.
Welcome back anybody. They're already here.
Well, we're welcoming them back because they're back.
All right, fine. Welcome back, Matthew, Rave. Who else do you want to welcome back?
Roman,
Snowman.
Snowman, Smarla,
Shamarla.
Okay.
Shamarla.
Anyway,
Anyway,
so this is a serious episode, Tim.
it is.
You got serious questions.
You
I brought the
petting your
dog.
on your lap.
I
It's a
brought the
very
dog.
serious.
With some serious hot wings.
With some, all I can smell is hot sauce right now, Tim.
We're going to get into that in a second, but
Okay.
I'm delighted to introduce Wally. Can you pronounce your last name?
Daudrich.
Daudrich. A true Manitoba success story. As a first-generation Canadian, Wally has a deep appreciation for the opportunities that this country offers. He's a man, many talents and passions, from leading thrilling polar bear. He led polar bear expeditions.
I didn't know that about him.
We're going to get into
You're
that
ruining
in a
all
second.
these things that we don't know about Wally by telling me them.
In
okay,
northern
go on.
Manitoba, and he's a dedicated father of five
5 kids.
Five
4 daughters,
kids.
1 son.
Four
Wow,
daughters, one
4
son,
daughters.
and a loving husband. Wally also finds the time to give back to his community through his involvement at his local church
Okay.
and through politics. So let's give a warm welcome to Wally Daudrich. Pronounced it right?
Awesome.
Yes.
That's the way.
Second
Daudrich.
try.
I thought you said Daudrich.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Okay.
that was
Just
right.
remember this. I doubt if I'm rich.
Yes.
There you go.
Daudrich.
Yeah,
Daudrich.
well,
You said it wrong.
I said it wrong. I'm saying, so anyway, Wally, before we get into the political stuff,
Sure.
before we get into
We're going to get into political stuff? I thought we were talking about Churchill and the polar bears and
before we
the
get
sea
into all
otters.
of those
And I was told it's all
things,
about the wings, so
Yeah.
let's
oh,
move it along.
well, we're all talking about different things.
But I wanted to do something fun, and I messaged you and your handler about if you'd be up
Handler.
for a
You call him your handler?
He might say that, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that's
No.
that's
That's my outreach director.
Roy in
Outreach director.
all
That's a
of
good
his
name.
texts.
Yeah.
All of his texts say the handler.
You're
They all do.
That's what you put him in the
making
phone
that up.
as.
You're making
Oh,
that up.
Rory the handler.
Roy.
Rory the handler. It's a wrestler name. So I wanted to do something fun, and this is something we have not done ever.
We haven't done this on the show, so this is weird.
I asked you if you were up for a challenge, and you said yes. I asked Greg if he was up for a challenge. He said no.
That's correct.
And but what I have brought here, I went to a couple of establishments in Winnipeg. One is the Crispy Wing on Notre Dame, and the other is Taps on St.
You went to 2 places.
I did, just in case one of them wasn't hot enough. And each of us have these plates of
So-
so-called two of the hottest wings, 3 of each. And each of us has equal plates, somewhat
one
equal
plate as
plates.
well.
So are
And
we rating
this
the
is-
wings now?
This is the challenge.
Okay.
It is not a timed challenge. You can eat at any speed that you want. You can have a nibble of one and refuse to have any other bites the rest of the show,
Mm.
or you can finish by the end of the show, and that is the challenge. This
So
is not
the
a timed
challenge is to finish 6 wings.
yes,
by
in
the
the
end of the show.
span of the entire show,
I have a feeling that I'm going to take 1 bite and I'm not going to be able to eat.
and that's fine. That's fine. You can give your leftovers to my 19-year-old daughter, and she'll eat them.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, you can put them away. You can nibble on them at any time, but this is the challenge.
Off camera, I asked Wally, I said, do you eat hot things? And Wally, what did you say?
I put hot sauce on everything.
Yeah.
I'd put it on my ice cream if I was allowed.
You would
Wow.
not. That would taste. That would taste.
Who-
that
who's-
would
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
Who's holding you back from putting it on ice cream?
Oh, my wife doesn't like that.
taste. Okay. Listen. Before we get into anything, I had a this or that question.
Oh,
I want to ask you. You brought up your wife.
Yeah.
Okay, we already talked about polar bears. Okay,
Right.
briefly.
Would you rather deal with a polar bear at 5 feet away from you without a weapon, or your wife when you've done something tremendously dumb?
I know that's going to be a loaded question right from the hop. I guess I would, of course, rather deal with my loving wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because I know I'm going to walk away.
Is going to walk away. All right. Why don't you ask that first question? Well, I'm going to take a bite of this wing,
Okay.
and you ask the who is question,
Okay.
and we'll see the reaction of my face. By the way, I will not put my. I did that. I started, but you gave me severe whatever for putting my hand in the.
It always looks like Tim's trying to hold our guest's hands.
Yeah.
And then
As he's reaching
he has
over.
two. He has a camera here, a camera there, and when I put my hand over here to be expressive, I'm trying to be engaging with the guests. Right, I'm doing my best. I'm exuberant here. I like to talk to someone like they're my best friend, but he doesn't like it when this hand goes into that screen on that camera.
Because those cameras are not measuring 3 dimensions, so it looks like you're putting your hand in front of me. Right?
Yeah.
So have we mentioned all of the companies that have provided wings tonight?
Taps Bar and Grill
Yeah.
and
See, I'm a businessman. I'm always interested in
in the
making sure-
businesses. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm making sure that
What
they
was
get
the other
fair,
one? Taps and
fair exposure.
Crispy wing on Notre Dame.
why are you shaking? He's gonna make it tough. So Wally, question we
He needs a napkin. It's going to
Nope.
bother me for the rest of the show because I won't shake
yeah,
his
why
hand
don't you
now.
bring napkins down for everybody?
I was
Napkins, please.
So this first wing. This is from
Handler.
This is from Taps,
Yeah.
and it's getting a little hot warm at the end. But at first it was like I didn't know it was. And Taps, I did a hot wing eating competition there, and they've since stopped it, and they said they can't make wings that hot
Okay.
because people might get hurt.
Okay.
So I'm done. One. Continue.
Well, we can put it on tape.
So we took a bit of a break, but Wally's already had
Wow.
a wing and a half.
Yeah,
and
dude.
he said the second wing's from Crispy Wing. He's breathing fire now. He's having problems.
My lips are on fire, guys.
You got
So-
water though now?
Oh, I do, yeah.
Well,
and you guys got napkins.
We got napkins,
But-
yeah.
See, the danger is
anyways, it doesn't matter. You don't need.
I gotta ask though.
the danger is you can get into the wing, really deep into the wing, and the effect doesn't happen
Yeah.
Until
30
after the
seconds
fact,
later.
right?
Oh yeah.
Have you seen the show Hot Ones?
I have not.
No. So there's a YouTube show called Hot Ones, and they go through the Scoville levels. So it starts with like a regular hot wing, and it just keeps going up.
Okay.
And there's one called Da Bomb, and it's I think third last in the list of the wings. And he always interviews guests while they're eating the wings, and as they get hotter, the guests take longer to answer their questions, and
I bet you
they start
do.
doing this. But they don't start at the hottest wing.
Man,
But
my sinuses are clear, gentlemen.
the one that's called Da Bomb, the guy, everybody always explains it as it tastes like battery acid.
Yeah.
Like it's hot.
Which begs
and
the
bad-
question: what does battery acid taste like?
Well, I guess it would taste. It tastes like it would smell. You know what battery acid
Oh, yeah.
smells
Oh,
like,
yeah.
right? So I guess the taste would remind them of that smell. So we do have more water if you
A
need.
little bit
So,
of rotten egg smell.
I also just had the second with the one you had.
Yeah.
and you're crying.
It's fire.
Don't touch your eyes.
Okay, can we ask the
Yeah.
first
Don't touch
should
the
we-
eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's the. By the way,
So the first question
Don't do
is,
this at home.
without explaining what you do and what you're doing currently, who is Wally Daudrich?
Yeah. Well, we deal with thousands of clients every year, and the most often question that's asked of me when people arrive from around the world
Mhm.
is, "What brought you to Churchill?"
Yeah.
And the number one question, how I answer that, is I love freedom. So Churchill, in so many ways, exudes freedom. And what I've heard somebody once say that Churchill is a celebration of the individual.
Okay.
And I've been asked, what do you mean by freedom, by a number of people, most recently, the last couple of days. And I've come up with this definition because I've been thinking about freedom for a long time. I
Yep.
learned that from my parents. But the definition I like to do, or like to give, is the freedom to make a mistake. So not all of us make good judgments, right?
Yep.
We're human.
Yep.
We're sinners. We make mistakes, but there's something called free moral agency. And it's something that's peculiar to our Judeo-Christian society. And that is the freedom that, if somebody wants to do something, as long as it's obviously not hurting other people, they have the freedom to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But they have to partake of the consequences as well. It's
Yep.
called personal responsibility. It's like Siamese twins. You've got freedom on this side. A guy can drink himself silly. But then if he's got to show up for work the next morning, guess what? You got to be there.
Yeah.
So you got to balance the two together. So there is a freedom, sometimes a freedom to make a goof of yourself.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's the freedom to be successful. We are all the compilation of all the decisions that we've made since that age that we were accountable.
Okay.
So that's kind of a way to look at, a neat way to look at freedom.
Yeah.
So, like, you could have the choice to eat a very, very hot wing, but you still have the responsibility to answer the question that Greg posed to you 3 minutes ago.
You guys,
While my teeth are throbbing.
I can imagine that
they
it's
are.
probably not great. Did you try both?
I did, yeah.
I had both.
You
I
tried-
one of each. I'm 2 out of 6.
So yeah.
The second one is quite a bit hotter. I'm glad I went to the second place. I was only going to go to the first.
What
place.
was the second place?
The
Taps?
hotter ones was crispy wings.
This
No, trust me, my mouth is on complete fire.
is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me
I
something.
didn't know that teeth could hurt.
They definitely can.
So tell me something, Wally.
Yeah.
What is something we don't know, and what is something people don't know about you that you think, like, it could be a hidden talent, it could be something that happened to you as a child, it could be a past life of being a Russian spy. We were hoping for the Russian spy thing,
Yeah,
but
Russian spy.
what
Take
is
the pen and
something-
stroke that one out. There might be something.
Sure.
There might be
This
some
is
things
real
that are more
Russian
important,
spy.
perhaps. But I own a banjo.
Okay.
Okay.
And I've been playing banjo since my 20s. But the unique thing is, I've got a banjo from an entertainer in the States.
Yeah.
And this banjo, I was told, guaranteed, that Johnny Cash and Charlie Pride played on this banjo.
Oh, very cool.
Both of them passed away, both country
Right.
western movie star,
Yep.
singing stars. So that's a bit of a hidden talent. I'm not the greatest banjo player.
Right.
But the joke is, when I went through the vetting process, become a candidate, that I had to take some remedial training,
Right.
because I was from the banjo country of Manitoba. And I said, hey, I actually play a banjo. So, they taught me how to use a knife and a fork. And they told me, stop hauling dead moose out of the bush. They said, well, that's how we get dinner up in Churchill.
Yeah.
So, there's some things that I've changed in the last few weeks just to conform to the deportment of being a
Do
politician.
you use chopsticks now? Do you know how to use chopsticks?
No, I don't.
Not yet?
I have to say that I think chopsticks
Roy, can
are-
we work on
are
that?
very
please?
impractical.
We're gonna if he becomes the leader, he's gonna be coming back. We're gonna have sushi.
Whew.
And the only way to eat it will be with chopsticks.
Yeah, I wish I had those with chopsticks because it would have slowed me down.
So
And probably the end of the chopsticks would have melted
interestingly enough, actually,
or lit on fire.
we were in contact with your wife earlier today, and we asked for a video of you playing the banjo. And if we could just throw that up right now,
You got that video?
and there you go. So that was Roy playing the banjo.
Roy?
Thanks to his.
That was Roy playing
That
the
was
ban-
Wally. Sorry,
Wally,
there's tears.
yeah.
There's tears coming down my nose here.
Your thought processes are getting ruined.
Yeah,
You've done this to yourself.
I've done this to myself.
I don't know what's next. For
Are you in as much pain as I was? I mean, I'm starting. I'm getting
starting
over
to.
it now.
I think I'm starting to cool down a bit, and I
You
want to have the
ate,
other
you ate a
wing.
whole wing. I ate half of mine.
Yeah. Oh, you only had half of it.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one time I put him through pain, and we went outside, and we had a chiropractor in here, and me and the chiropractor do cold therapy. So me and Tim and the chiropractor went outside in just our bathing suits in January and
Mm.
sat in the snow for about 15 minutes.
My goodness.
That was painful for him,
wow.
but this would be very painful for me. Is that the hottest one again?
No, this is
No.
The medium?
Yeah.
That's the medium?
Well, it's still pretty hot. So
Anyway,
I
so
want- you're gonna ask
go ahead.
I want to know. I've never known anyone to do polar bear exhibitions.
Sure.
Can you describe, if Greg and I were to be provided a free trip to, let's say, see the polar bears,
Yeah.
which you could do that if
Yeah.
you would like.
He could probably swing it, right?
I think I could talk to somebody.
What's a day in the life if we're coming with whoever it is, seeing the polar bears? What does that look like from when you wake up to when you go to bed?
Well, let me talk about how it used to be, because I've been up there since 1981. Some of the first people I took out on polar bear tours, before we had all this fancy equipment that we have now with enclosed buses,
Yep.
soup containers and sandwiches and espresso bars and such. Some of the first people I took out were actually on the back of a pickup truck,
Okay.
in the back of a dump truck, pardon me, strapped down.
So high enough that you're
strapped down to a lazy boy chair,
okay.
high enough to be away from the bears,
Yep.
out in the elements.
Yep.
It was actually a reporter for the Minneapolis Tribune. So that was how polar bears used to happen in the early 80s.
Yep.
And then I drove a track machine for the longest time. I remember going across a little lake, which I thought was pretty benign. It looked like a little pond.
Yep.
And as I was going across it, of course, the ice at that time of the year, early November, it broke. And so I put pedal to the metal. We went right across the lake.
Yeah.
And I looked behind me. Wow, there's open water all the way. But the ponds up in the wildlife management area that we use for polar bear tours typically are 2 or 3 feet thick, right?
Okay.
Or 2 or 3 feet deep. So I, just out of curiosity, because the machine was going at this angle the whole way across, so I got a long stick. I don't know where I found a long stick out on the tundra, but I did, and I poked a hole in there, and I couldn't find the bottom. It was over 6 feet deep.
Oh wow.
So it put the fear of God in me at that point in time, that I'll never go blindly across a lake like that at that time of the year, especially knowing that there's the odd lake, maybe 1 out of 100, that's actually deeper than the normal 2 or 3 feet.
Yeah.
And of course, I had a group of clients on board. That
So you'd
if
say
you would have
that's-
went in, we would have been standing on top of the machine with bears in the area,
Yeah.
and very dangerous. So we were
and cold.
and very cold. So we obviously, when you're looking at the world's largest land carnivores, you take precautions and such. So we do things significantly different. Now, the strangest trip that I ever had was when we had 2 groups. One group was provided by us by a tour company that came out of Europe. It was a family of Rothschilds, if you believe it.
Okay.
The actual Rothschild family.
Yeah.
Some were from England, some were from the continent. I forget which country.
When was this? What year?
Oh, this is back probably around 83, 84,
Right.
85, thereabouts.
The good old days.
The good old days. Well, yeah. And then the other half of the group that came together, and don't ask me how they got them together, but was a pig farmer from the state of Indiana. So, you have them for about 10 or 12 hours every day. So, you chat with them. I mean, that's what you do as a tour guide.
Yeah.
You learn to be personable, and you learn to talk to them about what they do for a living. Like, hey, Mr. Rothschild, what do you do for a living? Well, we do a little bit of banking, a little bit of property and such. And,
Just a little bit.
yeah. And of course, they all had these sweaters on, long sleeve sweaters that no fashion conscious person would ever be caught alive with. Now, perhaps Stephen Harper has had a bout with some of those kind of sweaters. But so we had a good chat with them, and then there was the other couple that came along, the pig farmer,
The Indiana pig
yeah,
farmers.
the pig farmer, Indiana. So I got to talking to this gentleman, and he was probably at that time in his early 60s, and very amiable. Both were really friendly, the Rothschilds and this pig farmer. So coming to talking to him, I find out that he was a very wealthy man. He was a millionaire.
Right.
But he didn't make his millions in pigs, which, I mean, you still could,
Yeah.
but he didn't. So I asked him, so what's your story? After a while, a few polar bear jokes and bumping around the
Yeah.
trail for a while, people loosen up,
Yeah.
both figuratively and literally.
A few
And
drinks, maybe.
Yeah, no liquor on board, but
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Not even in the 80s?
Not even in the 80s. No,
No.
I'm a non-drinker myself, but
I also, but
yeah. But
But in the 80s, it feels like everybody was a
you know,
drinker.
when you're high on fresh air, literally, I think high oxygen outside in Churchill on the Hudson Bay, the air is just so pure and clean.
Yeah.
So come to talking to this guy, he literally said, and I kid you not, he was digging a hole in his farm to put the pig dookie in. Yeah, I guess he was probably doing some things illegal with his hoe. And then he kept digging. He said, huh, there's peat moss down here.
Right.
He can't make this stuff up, right? There's peat moss down here. And so he kept digging and he kept digging and he kept digging. And he just kept finding more peat moss. And then I guess he must have taken some to the local garden shop, or somebody somehow found out that there was a peat moss mine on his property. So he literally opened an open pit peat moss mine. And that's how he made his millions. It kind of makes me think about Jed Clampett, shooting at some food, and up through the ground come the bubbling crude. Well, here was a pig farmer from Indiana that literally made his millions by digging a hole in the ground for pig dookie and finds out, well, I mean,
and here he is on your tour with the Rothschilds. Out of all the people he's hanging out with, right?
Did you expect a story like that today?
No, that's
exactly the story I was expecting. And for our younger viewers, the Beverly Hillbillies was a show from the never mind.
Yes.
We have to
always explain
always
things to
reference
our younger
things.
viewers.
Well, we've got you got streaming video now. That's
you can watch all of it.
You can
Are
watch
you
all of
okay?
it. Yeah.
You look rough. You look haggard, actually.
They're hot. I've had 3 of 6 of them. So
3 of the 6.
I'm doing great. Just don't have the camera on me if I look rough. Just like
just blur you out. So is this what you expected in the interview?
This is exactly what I expected.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that we're not letting you down or over.
No.
Being better than you expected.
Yeah.
We want to be right in the middle.
I really wasn't expecting that to be that hot, so I will.
So I have a question for you. So you have done a lot of different things in your careers, plural. How did you go from doing polar bear expeditions to saying, I want to go into politics?
Yeah, that's another easy question to answer, because my parents were both DPs. That means they were displaced persons. We're a close family. There was 4 siblings. And my father, actually, in 1928, he told me the story about when he was 13 years old. And he told me the history of the family. They used to live in a little town called Daudrichville. And in southern Manitoba, you have a lot of, field name and then field little communities. And so it was mostly relatives, obviously, and some not. But so he told me a story one time when the Bolshevik soldiers, the communist soldiers, because in 1917 is when the communist revolution happened. But it took several years for it to consolidate itself in the countryside. And so the Bolshevik soldiers would come by every so often. They would exact tax. So they would take livestock, because most peasant farmers, they didn't have money, cash. You lived off of what you grew yourself. Maybe you had what we call cash crops, and they made a little bit of money so they could go to the store and buy salt and flour or whatever.
Yeah.
And he told me one day that he heard shots coming from the neighbor's house. The neighbors were killed, and then the soldiers came over to his house, and his dad told my grandma, take all the kids that can't walk, throw them in a wheelbarrow, take them behind the house in the bush and hide. I'm going to negotiate with the soldiers. So they did that. And he said that he negotiated away his last milking cow, because that's all he had left.
Mm-hmm.
And as clear as crystal, when my dad was still alive, he said, and obviously they were Germans living in Russia.
Yeah.
And he said, this is a wicked land. We need to leave. And so after that point, through a circuitous means, eventually they sold what they could. They had some contact with some people in Canada. They took what they could, got some paperwork, and finding out that the paperwork wasn't filled out properly at the border. And my grandpa, at that point in time, at the border, I think it was with Poland, one of those small countries, he was told to turn around and go back to Russia or to Moscow to deal with the paperwork. And so he said, screw that. So he led all the kids, the whole family, around the train, around the other side, snuck back on the train, and then went off to Antwerp,
Oh
Belgium,
wow.
which is where they eventually made it to Canada. They settled in a place called Tolstoy in southeast
Yep.
Manitoba, just
By the border.
yeah, just close to the border, just east of Emerson.
Yep.
And they ended up starting a little dairy farm there. Manitobans need to be pinched once in a while about how good we have it here. I think we have a bit of an inferiority complex because, oh, you look at British Columbia, some places got warmer weather and such. But I've been to those places and such, and I always come back here and I realize, the lakes that we have, nice clean water. Everywhere you go, you can grow things. We've got ample resources up north. And I know I'm politicking now, but
It's okay.
moving on, because I want to answer your question. So my mother, similar situation, living in Eastern Europe, but later, during the Second World War, Hitler came through. He threw a bunch of people, displaced them, moved them from one place to another. Eventually, she found herself in a concentration camp from 1944 to 1945. She had, what was it, rubella, I think it was, rheumatic fever. I'm sorry, that's what it was,
Okay.
rheumatic fever. Survived it. She remembers being in their clinic. They had something like that in the camp, and she's seen many of her cousins and people that she knew had passed away
Yep.
from infections and such. And she thought, "This is my turn now. I'm going to die." But she survived. She was one of very few. And eventually, she was put together with her family, her parents, and her brother, weirdly, again, by the Polish mailman that they had before the war. His last name was Urbanski. So he knew where all the parts of the family were, put them all together again, and they were able to get out with their lives.
Yep.
Eventually having to leave Eastern Germany because it was Russian controlled at that time,
Yep.
and then eventually to Western Germany. So I remember growing up as a young boy in the 60s and 70s. What we would do is we put these weird care packages together, and I'll tell you what they are, and I'll ask you guys if you know why the care packages were like this.
Yep.
But
Okay.
okay, so we would put jeans together,
Okay.
chocolate bars, bubble gum, certain brand names of chocolate bars and junk food and such. We'd put it in a box, wrap it up, and send it to communist Poland.
Okay.
So what's up with that?
Well, they probably didn't have any denim. They probably had some kind of like restriction on denim, I would assume.
Yeah, so in the East Bloc countries, they were very poor,
Mhm.
because socialism, you're living.
And the cost of denim was probably high.
Well, yeah, and Western jeans, anything that was Western,
Yeah.
was considered cool, and it was actually almost like currency. So, being poor people in Poland, my mom was trying to send packages of things that they requested, and so oftentimes the packages would be pilfered, of course, because the inspectors would
Would
look
take the
at it.
chocolate
They
bars.
they
Take the
take what they
chocolate
wanted.
tax like Greg does in Halloween for his kids every October
Exactly.
31st.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So these packages went out for years, and then eventually, Poland eventually became a freer country. Of course, Lech Walesa and the freedom movement in the East Bloc countries started there. So that's sort of my mom's background as well. So both came from freedom deprived backgrounds that were violent, almost took their lives. And there's actually a segment of population in southern Manitoba that has gone through those deprivations.
Mhm.
And so, when I was growing up, I remember my dad looking at TV. Back then we watched TV, right?
Yep.
With the
Or
rat-
the-
with the
or
rabbit
the
ears.
radio.
Yeah. In the old days, we had stone tires, wooden axles and such. And
They were square. The
Oh, that's
tires,
right, I forgot
right?
We have a
about that.
picture of that.
It's
right
so
now.
far, it's so long ago, I forgot. So he would look at the news. We'd watch the news together. I was just like a 9, 10-year-old boy. And every once in a while, he'd say, "That's propaganda. That's propaganda. And I remember that hearing it so many times. So he's
Yeah.
basically giving me the commentary, and my kids probably hear the same thing from their dad about rating what's coming through the news, whether
Yeah.
it's true or false, true or false. And that's where I think that Canadians and Manitobans need to look at the news and they need to say, oh, is that true or is that not true? Because so much of what we hear today is just not factual.
Right.
I mean, it's gotten so bad that I bought part of the Winnipeg Sun because I was so concerned that Manitoba has no conservative paper.
Okay.
So the Winnipeg Sun, if you've looked at it recently, it's been converted over. We dropped the Sunshine Girl, and we've
I was just going to say that it's gone downhill since
Well,
before Greg was the Sunshine Girl.
that was one of the requirements for me to become
You had to drop
shareholder.
the Sunshine
Oh,
Girl?
I don't want to sign. It's a demeaning.
I thought maybe they ran out of
Or Sunshine Girls. No,
Sunshine Girls.
no.
Or maybe because it's so cold in the winter. They should do winter versions.
Yeah.
Just in snowsuits.
There you go, in snowsuits. Yeah,
I always laughed
absolutely.
with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers with the Blue Brigade or whatever they call them now. They would
The Blue Lightning.
when it got to like November and they used to come out and they used to do that and they're all in like snowsuits. I'm like, I don't know, like what's going on here? I didn't really.
What do you mean? They're just there to dance for entertainment. What are you trying to see?
It was just hard to move.
Can you explain?
Yeah, it's hard
Okay.
to move and adjust in a parka. Have you ever done calisthenics in a parka? Have you? Well, then don't judge. Continue.
Well, growing up in Manitoba, of course, anytime you see a football game late in the season, a championship game, and of course it starts snowing, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's snowing or it's freezing cold, and
Yeah.
we
and
were lucky
they've
this
got
year, though.
gloves on and they got hand warmers because obviously you're going to catch the ball
Yeah.
if you got warm hands, but if you got cold hands, it's going to slide through. So
We were very lucky this year, though. The Bombers played in the playoffs in warm weather.
Yeah.
I think it was plus temperatures the whole playoffs.
yeah, and
which was very
it does
good.
seem to be happening a little bit more often. So
And we have the Grey Cup coming this year.
yeah, wow,
That's going to be
Yeah, that's-
exciting.
That'll be very exciting for Winnipeg,
Yeah.
absolutely, and for Manitobans.
Yeah. So your
So did I answer that question? Why am I involved in politics? Because in the back of my mind, even if you retain 5% of what your parents taught you, it's gonna guide and change your life, right?
So how did you get into politics now?
so like what's the actual physical way you did it?
Yeah. So weirdly, I was actually signed up by a member of the Teamsters Union.
Okay.
He was actually a conductor, or pardon me, the engineer of one of the trains, grain trains that come up to Churchill. Became a good friend of mine. So he brought me into the Reform Party of Canada.
Okay.
So that's going way back in either 88 or 89, I can't remember. And eventually, of course, the Reform Party merged together with the PC Party. Well, I mean, through
That was under Preston Manning,
well, it was under Stephen Harper. Preston Manning started the party.
the Reform Party, right?
Yeah. So he started it. It went for whatever amount of years it was. But the problem there
It was splitting the vote.
Splitting the vote, yeah.
Right.
So that's the issue that we have right now as well.
yeah.
We can talk about that
With
later.
the CPC and the
Well, federally, CPC doesn't necessarily have the strength of voting power, the gravitas that it would need to be in that way. But I'm talking provincially now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think provincially that our PC party is in trouble because we've mistreated the membership so badly. And it was me jumping in because I believe that we need a true conservative, one that's understanding of the full spectrum of conservatives.
Yeah.
There's some people who just want balanced budgets, and that's that's fine. So you want
What's one side of the coin?
yeah, it's one side of the coin. Well, it's one segment of the spectrum, and there's many other parts of that spectrum. But we want to bring that spectrum together. But it has to be conservative values.
Yeah.
Remember what I said at the beginning about what definition or my definition of a conservative is. It's the freedom to make a mistake.
Yeah.
And you can't have that freedom you can't make a mistake unless you have that freedom.
So I'm going to ask you the first hard question.
The first hard question.
The first hard question. Right now, you don't hold any riding.
Right.
Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. without holding a riding, let's say you become the leader of the Conservative Party.
Sure.
What can you do without having a riding as the leader? I'm ignorant to this.
Yeah.
I don't really know the answer. I'm just wondering what you can actually enact or do to make change and to hold accountability to the NDP party right
Yeah.
now.
Well, there's a number of issues on that. First of all, the NDP don't care what we say. They have a majority government. They're going to do what they want to do. Second problem is we have a party right now that's messaging the wrong message. We're the least popular PC party in Canada right now. Conversely, the NDP numbers are very high. You can argue that there is a honeymoon period and such, and then the gas tax reprieve, which was clawed back, by the way, and huge deficit. So no gain there for Manitoba, but they essentially use some tactics to gain and win an election. And good for them. That's part of the game.
Yep.
But getting into as leader, the issue first of all is healing our party and cleaning our party and making our party right, and that's going to take a few months. And in the interim, I've got a good team with me. We're going to get the party back on message. Like, to give you an example, this is a really good example. When the Republicans won the campaign, the election in the United States, our party tweeted out, "Congratulations to Kamala Harris for running a great campaign." Well, she just finished blowing $2.5 billion. On that day was actually, I think, the day that that news came out. And then all of these endorsements from Oprah Winfrey and the whole cadre of performers, we found out that those were all paid for by big donors, from Hollywood and elite circles. So I'm wondering, why are we celebrating the loser of the election? Maybe you don't like Trump, and I understand some people might. Maybe he's
polarizing,
a little icky, and makes some bad comments from time to time.
I would like to have coffee with him one day, though. I don't think that would be a bad conversation at all. But anyway, sorry, I digress.
Yeah, so the messaging of the party needs to be cleaned up and focused. There's a reason why Wab Kinew is getting the numbers that he has right now, and there's several reasons. But one of the reasons is an opposition party is supposed to oppose. Obviously, the people who are MLAs there right now are not opposing because they're not messaging properly. They're doing some, but they're not doing it properly. So you have to message, and you have to show Manitoba that you're an alternative to what's there right now. And frankly, what I see right now is a virtual clown show on the front line of the NDP. If you're looking around Manitoba, the problems that we're seeing with knife and machete attacks in Winnipeg, and I was criticized for talking about homelessness, but you know what? I brought that up as an issue. And, drug addiction is another name for homelessness. You have to go to the root of the problem. And I would say this as well, that, it's not even drug addiction. You go a few steps back before that. And what it is this hopelessness. People don't have hope. And when your environment around you is built in such a way that everything that's emphasized in our culture is very sick. The materialism that we're sold, the commercialism that you see on TV, on media and such, it's running a bad narrative of what makes you happy. And we have to go back to actually understanding what is it that will make people happy.
So I'm gonna interject here for a second, Wally, if you don't mind. But I'm gonna ask my first tough question. So you say it's time to improve the PC party, rebrand, get things back in working order.
Yeah.
And we had Abhi Khan as well a number of episodes ago.
Sure.
And if he was here right now, I'm sure what he would interject with and say, "Wait a minute, I'm the newcomer here to the party. Wally's been around in the executive for 12 years. What does he mean he's going to revamp something he's been in the middle of for so long?" like he's been part of the problem. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, so we were I was there as a board member before we were in power. So
Mhm.
then we got in power, and my capacity as board member is as an organizer in the riding level. So I have 4 ridings in northern Manitoba. So we actually went into the first election actually winning one of those ridings. And then subsequent to that, uh, our job as board members is to watch over the finances and watch over the party.
Yep.
And things were good up until we started with the COVID era.
Yeah.
And then the COVID era, unfortunately, our leader started
It didn't
mandating.
go well.
Yeah, he started mandating
Yeah.
behavior that just wasn't what our supporters wanted.
Mhm.
So I did send a number of emails, very strongly worded emails, referring to the past that I mentioned earlier
Yep.
of my parents and such, and the arbitrary removal of freedoms that we see here is completely unwarranted.
Mhm.
And so I was maybe the 1 or 2 outliers on a board of about 14 that was making very strong gestures that we need to stop this.
Yeah.
What ended up happening is during that period of time, they actually discontinued the meetings. And so now you had a situation where we couldn't see each other. And eventually, what happened, and this was under Heather Stephenson, is the person who was in charge of her finances was actually let go. And then we weren't getting budgets, not proper budgets.
Yeah.
I like line item budgets that actually list each expenditure, not just general categories. And
Yeah.
so our budgets went from 10 pages long to half a page or 1 page long.
Mm.
So there were some serious issues. There was also a change in the executive and such. A lot of the stuff happened arbitrarily with no grassroots. Uh, to say that I was in the thick of it, I was there. I was protesting it, but I was not a part of it. That can be said for sure. I do know the machinations of government. I know how a political party operates. I know how the ledge operates because I'm there
Yeah.
in an office right next door and often see the proceedings happening as well. So the the ultimate thing to remember as well is there are other politicians, Brian Mulroney, who didn't hold office when he was elected leader. I believe Stephen Harper, Doug Ford was another one. You have Danielle Smith, but it'll be argued that she was also a member of the Wild Rose before, but she was out of it for a little bit and then came back into it.
Yep.
So it is not necessary. As a matter of fact, I would say it's to my advantage to not be in the ledge. And actually, my opponent is not in the ledge right now, anyways, because he's battling me. He expected to be anointed, and he had 2 years where he was consolidating control over his, getting his colleagues on side and such, and doing campaigning. I jumped in because we need a leader who's actually conservative, and that's part of my theme. Is I am actually conservative, and that's where the battle lines are not whether it's establishment versus grassroots.
Yep.
Because I have establishment people
Right.
on side as well. I probably couldn't have been vetted as a candidate without having that experience and being a board member.
Yep.
If you remember a fellow named Ken Lee. So Ken Lee was our accountant, I believe, for 12 years, the same amount of time that I was a board member. And he wasn't allowed to run.
Okay.
He didn't get an up or down vote.
Can you explain to me?
This was back when the
This was
Stephenson,
during
Glover,
the
and he got
the
declined.
nomination campaign. So he applied and was denied.
Yeah.
Okay.
And s-
I have a question, and it might be your question, so I'm going to steal it if it is. You said my opponent.
Yeah.
Is it true that you cannot refer to your opponent by name?
By name,
No.
it's
Oh, okay.
everybody
We're
seems
just
to do
wondering
this.
because like everyone
No.
always goes my opponent,
You know,
or is it because you don't want to give them the
Like,
publicity?
you don't want to
No.
say your opponent rhymes with Robbie Khan.
Yeah, no.
But-
I would be happy for this
That doesn't
moment in
rhyme at
time
all.
Robbie
to
Khan?
say Abi Khan is my opponent.
Yeah.
He is well established in his own right. He had
Yep.
a great football career.
He's also a businessman.
He's also a businessman. He went from 6 restaurants down to 1 now. And so he has his accomplishments. There's no doubt.
What makes you say that Abi Khan, your opponent, is not a true conservative? Why is he not a true conservative?
Well, I think he was actually sitting in the seat when he made reference that the term progressive is very important. To me, if as part of the rebranding, if I'm leader, I would leave it up to the grassroots. But I would like to see the party named the Conservative Party of Manitoba. The term progressive generally is penned when you're referring to the NDP. Or wokeness, as we would call it today, more progressive values. I can understand if you're progressive, but you have 1 or 2 or more of those parts of the the conservative
Yeah.
makeup
Right.
that we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
Like if you're a fiscal conservative, but you're not conservative, you're not pro-life, you're not,
You're conservative in certain.
correct.
Yeah.
So that is part of our conservative party, and
Yeah.
it's a significant part. So my platform is the social conservative part of the platform. It's a small part, but it's a significant part. But the big part, and the way that you win elections, and you've heard it in the States, it's the economy, stupid.
Yeah.
So you have to grow the economy, because everything else, whatever the issue is, whether it's medical care, infrastructure, policing. Now, policing, there's some things that we could change right away, but all of those things require money.
Yeah.
And we're broke. If you've checked your provincial wallet lately, guess what? We've been spending more money than
Do you
we
have a
have.
provincial wallet?
I just got
You
rid
have
of my
little
wallet.
wings on your face.
Yeah, they do it.
Right on the side.
Is that the same thing as a wallet?
That's the same as your wallet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the at growing up, I always knew the progressive conservatives as the PCs.
Yeah.
Like everybody just said, the PCs, the NDP, the PCs, the NDP. You think about the NDP, it was the New Democratic Party, right? Like
Right.
you didn't like associate it as like you have the Socialist Party. You associate the Socialist Party with being socialist, right?
Yeah.
You have like a Communist Party. You associate them being communist. Back in the day, and the Liberals have never really been popular in Manitoba in terms of provincially. Like it's always been the two. You had Gary Filliman, Gary Dewar, Greg Selinger, and then Brian Pallister, right? Like you always had that. It's just come to light more recently, I think, and it's coming more into the mainstream of like conservative versus liberal, right? And you have to say the NDP are more the liberal, if not the Liberal Party of Manitoba, right?
So I would beg to differ with you on some of the terminology.
Yeah.
Traditional liberals is classical liberalism.
Is central.
Well, I would say that's a very, like being a libertarian or classical liberal is actually being very conservative in today's parlance.
Yeah.
I should say historically,
Yes.
if you're looking at, the political paradigm of how you understand things. But, today, yes, we've kind of borrowed some lingo from the States.
Yeah.
Because if you're called a liberal, well, you're basically left of center, far left, woke. Although there is a spectrum part of liberalism that, traditional Democrats, for instance, there are still some
that are central,
and not woke. So I can respect that. But a part of their party, I would say about at least half of it, maybe 3/4, but probably half of the Democrats in the States are completely woke. Up here in Manitoba, I don't know every NDP member of parliament or member of the Legislative Assembly exactly, but I'm going to say that perhaps 3/4 of them are woke. 1/4 of them just go along to get along. In our
To
party,
stay in power, basically.
yeah, exactly. So in our party, again, I'm not going to say one way or another, but I'm just kind of dividing it up into 3 groups.
Right.
Mhm.
What the percentages are, I'm not sure. But let's say 1/3 is woke. 1/3 is just neutral. They could be
Mhm.
pushed either way. And then 1/3 is non-woke.
Right.
And those, obviously, those are the conservatives. Yeah, 2/3, you could argue, could form a really good government. And then 1/3, they're woke, but they may not know why they're woke. So, if I come in as a leader of the party, obviously I have to work with everybody. And I have a skill set as a business person. I have about 50, 60 people that work for me every year. A lot of times I interview them over the phone. I don't know who they are. They may,
Right.
I
Yep.
have no idea. But you know what? We learn to work with them.
Yep.
They may not, have the same idea of life that I have, and I'm trying to be as politically correct as possible
No,
in
for
that
sure.
way. But you know what? If they get the job done, they get the job done. If they can't get the job done, well, then they got to be fired. But we run a meritocracy, and that's how I would look at the party. So, in a sense, I can be philosophically neutral or blind, when working together with people. As long as they can understand and understand logic and reason why we would want a certain why we want to have balanced budgets.
Right.
Well, it sounds pretty straightforward. Oh yeah, we want a balanced budget. You think everybody's on board.
Yeah.
Well, the NDP actually, some of them think that running a deficit is a good thing.
Well, their
Well-
voting base do not necessarily support.
And Trudeau said
Balancing
budgets
budgets.
balance themselves, so I don't even
Yeah.
know why we'd have to hire
if I
somebody.
could, if I could go back to a little bit here, you talk about wokeness.
Yeah.
You reference the United States. We just saw an election in the U.S. where, at least from my perspective, Trump won because of a reaction against, as you say, some of the wokeness
Sure.
that people had enough of it
Yeah.
on the right side. And typically in the U.S., especially in a lot of states, there's a lot of right-wing, capital C conservatives. They don't use the word conservative; they use Republican, but it's kind of
Yeah.
one in the same. Capital
Sure.
R, capital C.
Of course.
Whereas in Canada, the move, at least in the last 50 years, has been very much a centralist vote. So you have a group like the progressive conservatives try to take advantage of that center vote. And that's, in my opinion, why they do those kinds of things. Do you believe not only is there enough capital C conservatives in Canada / Manitoba for you to become the representative for the PC party? And secondly, do you think there's enough capital C conservatives that if you did beat Mr. Abi Khan, that you could beat Wab Kinew in a provincial election?
So capital C conservatives is meaning, party affiliated people. That's the talking about the party, capital C.
Yep.
So I'm using small C conservative. So when I look at new immigrants to Canada, I'm looking at conservatives. They have the same idea of family, a mother and a father, a male and a female. Children should obey the parents.
Yeah, because they're coming from countries that are very much
That are very,
like that.
very much conservative. The rest of the world is more conservative than Canada. Canada, unfortunately, has had back-to-back liberal. We've had
back-to-back
back-to-back liberals.
triplicates,
Yeah. So unfortunately, they've been able to massage the country over to the far left, and we need to pull it back. So I believe that Winnipeg can be easily won if we stick to our conservative values. So when I think about the term progressive conservative, it's almost like one friend of mine said, he said, when you're saying progressive conservative, it's almost like you're apologizing for being conservative. The media likes to think of conservative almost like we talk about liquor. Don't drink too much. Don't get too conservative. You can get really bogged down in we're treating it like alcohol.
Yeah.
Being a conservative is actually common
You're saying
sense.
be proud of your capital C conservatism.
Well, my
and
small C
the small C,
conservatism,
the small C.
the philosophical, the
Yeah.
foundation of conservatives is going back to that essence of freedom, the freedom to make a mistake.
Like, it's kind of changed, right? Like, back in the day, the people that rebelled were the hippies
Right.
and the liberals and the people that were against government. Now you think the people that are rebelling are the conservative people, the ones that
Well,
go to
even
church
going
and-
back to the hippies, they actually had a number of anti-establishment thinking, ideas.
yeah,
Pro-health. I mean, the RFK Jr. I mean,
yeah.
he's kind of like a
He's
part
a
of all that.
libertarian, right?
Libertarian. So a lot of the hippies, they said
That one's
tune
hard.
in or tune out,
Oh, that one's
and drop out. So they actually had some, I would say, some very conservative values. Were they on the program as far as being a big C conservative? Obviously
No.
not.
Yeah.
But a lot of what they believed was it was a reaction to over industrialization. Sign everywhere, sign paving, pavement everywhere. So it was wanting to get back to a more natural lifestyle,
Yep.
better eating, natural food. And so a lot of people, you call them the hippies, but those are actually a good component of the conservative movement here in Manitoba and across Canada.
So you heard it. The new PC party led by Wally is going to be a bunch of hippies. And on that note,
we have hippies. We are hippie friendly.
We got into a little bit of politics.
If that's what we get out of this, we're hippie friendly. I'm good with it because I do like the hippies.
we're very much we appreciate your time, and we want to be respectful of your time. We know that it's limited here, but we do like to end our episode with something fun, just to get to know you a little bit even more.
Sure.
And I've got that coming up. And Tim, are you going to give them the instructions?
Well, let's talk about one more thing before we get.
And before you talk about your one more thing, just I want to point out that I have finished my plate of wings.
Oh my!
And Greg hasn't touched his. And Wally has had.
I might touch it afterwards. I didn't get a napkin, so
he's not.
I'm putting.
Don't let him fool you. He's not ever touched. I'm bringing these home. He's not touching.
I'm putting mine in my gas tank.
Yeah, that's for sure.
They will fuel your car.
I just want to be clear. Greg I will be taking these home. You will not touch these ones.
Okay.
And if I blow up my engine on the way home, I'll blame you.
Well, you get extra mileage. Anyways, I apologize. Continue.
So one more thing. I jumped into the race because I want to save the PC party.
Yeah.
It's up to the green grass, the people to determine what they want to do with the name and all that. It's not up to me.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm jumping in is because we need a party that represents the right of center, not extreme, but right of center. Otherwise, we will. What'll happen if we don't have a right of center party? We'll have other parties start up. And then you're going to metastasize. You're going to actually splinter the vote on the right, and we won't.
Like
be
what happened with the Reform Party back in the day.
Correct. So every Western province has gone through a reform like that. Saskatchewan Party from the PC Party, the UCP from the Wild Rose and the PC Party. Most recently, the party in British Columbia. Now John Rustad almost led the Conservative Party of British Columbia to a victory. The reason he didn't get enough seats is because some of the members of the original party didn't step down when they amalgamated. So you had a split vote in about 8 or 9 or 10 ridings. So as a result, he was 2 or 3 seats short. So the problem here in Manitoba is I know people who are going to start a party. If I fail, and they're hoping, they're actually saying, we don't think you're going to make it, Wally. I believe I'm going to make it. But they're saying, if you fail, we've got a party ready to go with a constitution, executive. They'll resurrect it, and they're well-financed. I'm not going to join that party. I'm not part of it, just to make absolutely sure. I'm here because I'm a loyal PC party member, but I want a right-of-center, non-extremist party that represents conservative values, the traditional values of our forefathers, if you will, of our families, and of new immigrants, the same values that our forefathers have, new immigrants have. And they are the ones largely in Winnipeg who are actually going to elect us as a new government.
Do you think you can win?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's, I'm not going to do this or that because we don't have time, because I know that you're out of time. So I'm going to finish it up here.
Yeah. So let's go to the fun stuff now.
Well, he says fun stuff. Let's do it. Roll it. We have 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. We got, so total 30 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
Do I hear 5 minutes? 5 minutes. That's the old pastor joke.
Yeah, it won't be much more
That's
than 5 minutes.
That's the
then,
old pastor.
If
Have you ever
we're
heard
gonna do that.
You're in church often.
Yeah.
You're the old pastor joke. Anyone want to give me 5 minutes? 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, and all of a sudden it's 30 minutes. Anyway, let's start it up. This or that is a quick game.
Yeah,
That's
you
a
wanna
really
explain it.
fun
Go ahead.
game. And it's very simple. You pick one or the other. And when you pick one, you have to remember that the other one goes away forever. You can choose to elaborate or you can just quickly go through them. We're going to start. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Instagram or TikTok?
Instagram,
Pizza or pasta?
pizza,
What's your toppings?
pepperoni, mushroom, green pepper.
Would
Does
pineapple, ever
pineapple
go
belong on
a
pizza?
No,
No. Correct
Oh.
choice. Laser tag or paintball?
paintball.
Okay, just coffee. Do you drink coffee?
I do.
Okay, Tim, Starbucks or McDonald's?
I guess Starbucks.
Ooh,
They have
okay.
Starbucks down there in Winkler.
They don't, but there's actually one coming.
That's right.
Yeah.
By the way, I graduated from Whistler.
But I will be sticking with the brand I have because
There you go. Video games or Netflix?
video games.
Your favorite?
I don't have a favorite game.
Would you rather climb a mountain or would you rather sit on a beach?
I'll climb a mountain.
I agree with you. I'm right there with you. Polar bears or penguins?
Of course, you know one. You know which one that is.
And by the way,
Do I need to say it?
No, you don't. But is it sea bear is a polar bear? Is that correct?
It is.
Like a Winnipeg sea bear. That's a
That's
another name for a polar bear. Right?
euphemistic. Sure.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Chocolate or chips?
Chocolate.
What's your favorite? Is it chocolate bar? What kind of a chocolate?
Cuban lunch.
What's that?
Oh,
Nobody knows about it, but it's been around for a long time.
What's it called?
Cuban lunch.
Cuban lunch.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
I'll
sir.
have to
put it on your list.
Yeah,
put it on my
they're hard
list.
to find.
In Cuba, I'm not going to Cuba. I'm going to Mexico, but not Cuba. iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Okay,
Because
well,
he's correct.
all right. Sporting events that are live sporting events or live concerts?
Live sporting.
And your favorites? Do you like music?
I do.
What's your if you had a dream concert to go anywhere to hear anyone live, who would it be?
Wow. I think. I mean, people who have passed away around.
Yeah,
as well. Yeah, I'd probably like Charlie Pride.
Charlie Pride.
Mhm.
Good
Yeah.
answer. Coke or Pepsi?
Oh boy, that's a political question. I refuse to answer.
You can't. That's part
You
of the
can't.
rules.
That's part of the rules.
Clock
Coke,
is ticking,
Coke, sure.
Yeah,
is-
that's the right answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Winnipeg Jets or Winkler Flyers?
I guess I'll say the Jets. Sure.
Oh wow! You heard it here first.
The Winkler
Yeah,
Flyers.
but you did hear the hesitation,
The
right?
Winkler
Yes,
Flyers
yes.
don't exist anymore. They've gone away forever. All right. Would you, for a superhero ability, if you could choose one of these two, which would it be? Invisibility or the ability to fly?
Oh, I love to fly because I'm a pilot.
You're a pilot.
I am.
There you go. That's something about you that we didn't know.
I'm a pilot and I'm a captain
There you go.
Wow.
and I'm a truck driver too.
Well, there you go.
Jeez, so
All
he's
things we
flying
didn't
us
know.
to Churchill
Yeah.
and driving us in the
Yeah,
truck
and
to the polar
and by the way,
bears.
no one has picked invisibility other than Greg. He's
Yeah,
wrong
that's
every
true.
time. Would you rather travel back in time 100 years or forward to 100 years into the future?
Oh man. Well, if you go forward, you might not go very far. I would say I'd like to travel back 100 years. That would be really cool.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well,
Very cool.
that is the game. You've got 75% correct, and we'll be sending that in an email as far as which ones were right and wrong.
So what am I becoming if I'm totally correct?
What are you becoming?
What is the game like? What is the game like? Correct?
What do you win?
Well, no, correct.
If you get above 70%, you get to come back on the show.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't. Sorry,
Oh, really?
I didn't explain.
Oh.
You didn't
before,
explain the answer.
and I apologize.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah.
So nobody's ever asked that question. So you took me for,
Okay.
and we've never actually told anyone. So any other
Okay.
guess?
So I want to
That's
give Wally one more chance
Yeah,
here. So you can get memberships. Where can you get memberships right
Yeah,
now?
so you can go to wallyforleader.ca.
Until when?
That's the number 4.
Wally.
Well,
number
the
4
deadline is
leader.ca.
the 28th of this month,
Okay.
but you want to get it a few days before that.
Okay.
It'll be 5 o'clock on the 28th. But like I said, get it well before that.
The only way you can vote for the leadership is by being a member.
Yeah.
correct?
I like
And-
to call it like registering to vote because you become a member and then automatically
Yeah, we
obviously get
just
to vote.
got membership again. I think we had lapsed a year, so we got
Okay.
it last weekend. So we are. Are you?
Yep.
Okay, there you
Yeah, I
go.
bought my membership last year again because it comes up for renewal, right? And you got to renew it. So
Yeah, it gets renewed after every election, so it's kind of a weird system.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
like to see it change, frankly. Just
once
a
you become a
regular
member,
year.
you should become a member, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Right.
And you get a renewal. Yeah.
So Wally, the number 4 leader.ca. That's where we can.
That's where you
get
can
your
go on
memberships.
board and you can actually buy a membership there. You can contact us if you want to become involved and help the campaign as well.
And you can read more about Wally's platform
Absolutely.
and
You got
everything
it.
about Wally.
Absolutely.
And Wally,
We
we
would like to
appreciate you.
thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate your time here, and we would like everyone out there to like, subscribe,
share,
We-
comment.
We do apologize to Tara Maslowski. We couldn't have her on again this week, but possibly
Yeah,
next week we'll
Maybe
get her
next
on.
week, yep.
But yeah, so all of you out there, thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching the Greg and Tim Show, and Wally. Thanks once again.
Thanks again.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for watching the Greg and Tim Show podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all your friends. Sharing is caring.